Nebuchadnezzar was king of the Babylonian Empire between 630 and 562 BC. Nebuchadnezzar was the son of Nabopolassar. Nabopolassar was the one who founded the Neo-Babylonian Empire, after defeating the Assyrian Empire, but after the death of Nabopolassar, his son Nebuchadnezzar ascended the throne, and it was under the reign of Nebuchadnezzar that the Neo-Babylonian Empire reached its maximum splendor. The most emblematic constructions of Nebuchadnezzar are the Hanging Gardens, which was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Nebuchadnezzar is known in the Bible because he deported the Jewish people to Babylon on 3 occasions, and in these deportations the prophets Daniel and Ezekiel were taken to Babylon. In this video we will be talking about how King Nebuchadnezzar became a wild animal. Before we delve into this topic, I invite you to like this video, and if this is the first time you see a video of us, subscribe and activate notifications so you do not miss any video. Let's start. King Nebuchadnezzar is the clear example that God exalts the humble and humbles the proud to the ground. Nebuchadnezzar was the son of Nabopolassar. Nabopolassar was the one who founded the Neo-Babylonian Empire after defeating the Assyrian Empire, but after the death of Nabopolassar, his son Nebuchadnezzar ascended the throne of Babylon, and Nebuchadnezzar was the one who enlarged Babylon. With his great shrewdness he kept many nations subdued, and one of these nations was Israel. Israel suffered 3 deportations to Babylon under the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, and in these deportations Nebuchadnezzar destroyed Jerusalem and the temple. The glory of the Neo-Babylonian Empire was not only reflected in its dominions, but also in its constructions. Nebuchadnezzar surrounded Babylon with a double wall with monumental gates, and adorned it with hanging gardens, and it was this glory that made Nebuchadnezzar's heart swell, and as a result of this God was going to humiliate him. In Daniel chapter 4 narrates that Nebuchadnezzar had a dream that frightened him greatly. For this reason he called the wise men of Babylon to interpret the dream. But no one could show him the interpretation, until Daniel came before Nebuchadnezzar. And Nebuchadnezzar told him the dream he had. In his dream Nebuchadnezzar saw a huge tree in the midst of the earth, and this tree grew more and more and became strong, and its top reached to the sky so that it could be seen from all the ends of the earth. This tree was beautiful and its fruit was abundant and there was food for all. And under it the beasts of the field stood in the shade, and in its branches the birds of the air made their abode. While this was going on, behold, a watcher came down from heaven, and cried mightily, "Cut down the tree, but the stump of its roots you shall leave in the ground with a binding of iron and brass among the grass of the field. Let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let its portion be with the beasts among the grass and the earth, and let its man's heart be changed, and let a beast's heart be given to it, and let 7 times pass over it, that the living may know that the Most High rules the kingdom of men, and to whomsoever he will he gives it." When the prophet Daniel heard the dream of Nebuchadnezzar, he was astonished for almost an hour and his thoughts troubled him. But in spite of all this, Daniel made known the interpretation of the dream to King Nebuchadnezzar. The tree represented the greatness of Nebuchadnezzar, and as for the tree that was cut down, it represents that Nebuchadnezzar was the greatness of Nebuchadnezzar. It represents that Nebuchadnezzar was to be cast among men and with the beasts of the field was to be his dwelling place, as the oxen were to be fed on the grass of the field, and the time that Nebuchadnezzar was to be in this manner was 7 years, until he acknowledged that the Most High has dominion in the kingdom of men, and that he gives it to whom he wills. The words spoken by the prophet Daniel were to be fulfilled 12 months later. The biblical account narrates that after 12 months King Nebuchadnezzar was walking in his royal palace, and when he beheld the greatness of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar said, "Is not this the great Babylon that I have built for a royal house by the might of my power, and for the glory of my majesty?" As he spoke these words, Nebuchadnezzar, a voice came from heaven saying, "To you it is said, King Nebuchadnezzar, the kingdom is taken away from you." And at once the words spoken by the prophet Daniel were fulfilled. Some scholars say that at that moment King Nebuchadnezzar began to crawl as if he were a child, and inside his lips began to drip his saliva and gave roars and moved to all sides on all fours like an animal. The guards to see this were greatly frightened, so they took the king Nebuchadnezzar to his bedroom. But Nebuchadnezzar escaped through a window and wandered through the countryside, but then captured him and placed a thick iron collar around his neck. In Daniel chapter 4 verse 33 narrates that Nebuchadnezzar began to eat grass like oxen, and when it rained his body was wet by the dew that fell from the sky, and the appearance of his body also began to change. The biblical account narrates that Nebuchadnezzar's hair grew like eagle feathers, and his nails like those of birds, and as time went by, now King Nebuchadnezzar walked on 4 legs like an animal. The people felt compassion when they saw him in that condition. Others mocked him. His years of glory were behind him. The powerful emperor who made the nations tremble was left behind. King Nebuchadnezzar was in that animal condition for 7 years. In Daniel chapter 4 verse 34 narrates that after 7 years King Nebuchadnezzar lifted up his eyes to heaven and came to his senses, and at that moment he blessed the Most High, praised and glorified him who lives forever, whose dominion is everlasting and his kingdom is for all ages. All the inhabitants of the earth are considered as nothing. God does what he wills with the celestial powers and with the peoples of the earth. There is no one who opposes his power or who asks him to account for his acts. These words were said by King Nebuchadnezzar, and after saying this, reason was returned to him, and also the majesty of his kingdom was returned to him. The biblical account narrates that Nebuchadnezzar was re-established as king of Babylon, and his greatness was greater than the first. So we come to the end of this video. We hope this video will be of great value to you. Now I say goodbye, and with me in a future video.